There are paintings that seem to break the silence of the museum and make the viewer hear something deeper than words: a lament, a cry, a plea. Anguish, by the Franco-Austrian painter August Friedrich Albrecht Schenk, created in 1878, is one of those works that wound the soul. In it there are no heroes, no saints, no gods, only a sheep, a mother, bent over the lifeless body of her lamb, surrounded by a flock of crows waiting for death to complete its work. Yet this seemingly simple scene has become one of the most devastating representations of maternal pain in all of art history. It is the pure expression of anguish, love, and mourning that transcends species, cultures, and centuries. August Schenk was born in Gluckstadt, Germany, in 1828, and later moved to France, where he developed most of his artistic career. Although he was a realist painter, his works were always imbued with a philosophical and almost symbolic sensitivity. He was a member of the Barbizon school and a master of the animalier art, specializing in representing animals with a surprising humanity. While other artists of his time devoted themselves to painting hunting scenes or portraits of nobility, Schenk explored the psychology of animal suffering as a mirror of the human soul. In his brush, beasts become metaphors for existence, solitary, vulnerable, and noble before the cruelty of the world. Anguish, originally titled Angoissy, was painted during his stay in France, in an era marked by political and social instability following the Franco-Prussian War. Although Schenk rarely spoke of his intentions, the historical context suggests that his work was more than a pastoral scene. It was an allegory of the despair of a wounded Europe, a meditation on loss and the world's indifference to suffering. The painting, of large dimensions, shows a white sheep standing in the middle of a snowy landscape, her wool soaked by the cold, her head bowed toward the ground where her dead lamb lies. Around her, dozens of black crows hover menacingly, waiting for the moment to devour the body. What makes Anguish such a powerful work is not only its subject but its composition. Schenk arranges the scene with almost cinematic precision. The snow covers the entire horizon, creating an immense void, a white desolation where there is no refuge. In that frozen desert, the figure of the mother becomes a beacon of warmth, the only point of life and emotion. The sheep is painted with extraordinary delicacy. Her gaze, directed at the ground, is full of helplessness, pain, and tenderness. The crows, on the other hand, are black stains, symbols of imminent death, of the fatality that surrounds love. The tension between white and black, between purity and decay, between love and death, is the visual and emotional axis of the painting. The very title, Anguish, does not describe a story but a state of the soul. Schenk does not seek easy sentimentality. His pain is silent, contained, universal. The sheep neither cries nor screams. Her suffering is that of one who no longer has hope, who knows that nothing can change. That stillness turns the scene into a symbol of all losses, that of a mother, a child, a people, the human soul before destiny. It is a cosmic lament that transcends anecdote and becomes a mirror of the human condition. The symbolism of the elements is profound. The snow represents the indifference of the world, the emotional coldness that surrounds suffering. The crows are the destructive forces, the scavengers of time and death, but even they do not dare come too close. The mother's love, though powerless, still commands respect. In the midst of tragedy, there is a fierce dignity. The sheep, a traditional symbol of innocence and Christian sacrifice, appears here as a martyr of a universe without compassion. She is Christ, and at the same time all of humanity, sacrificed again and again by a blind fate. Technically, Schenk achieves a perfect balance between realism and poetry. His mastery of light is remarkable. The whiteness of the landscape is not flat but vibrant, built with shades of blue, gray, and pink. The texture of the fleece, the gleam of the ice, the shadow of the crows cast upon the snow, all are calculated to create an atmosphere of immense solitude. The air seems frozen, the silence almost audible. The brushstrokes are soft, meticulous, but within their precision there is emotion. Schenk knew that true tragedy needs no exaggeration, only truth. The reception of the work was as intense as it was controversial. When it was presented at the Paris Salon of 1878, anguish provoked tears, discomfort, and fascination. Many critics considered it a moral painting, a warning about compassion and respect for life. Others accused it of being overly melodramatic or moralizing. Yet the public embraced it as one of the most moving images of the century. It was an age when art sought to express universal emotions, and Schenk had achieved this with a force no human portrait had reached. Over time, anguish was interpreted in multiple ways. Some historians saw in it a metaphor for motherhood and sacrifice, a painting that exalts the nobility of unconditional love in the face of pain. Others considered it a veiled critique of the materialism of the 19th century, where purity, represented by the sheep, is devoured by greed. The Crows. In a more political reading, it has been interpreted as an allegory of France's suffering after its defeat in 1871, a wounded nation, stripped and surrounded by enemies. It has even been associated with spiritual themes: the mother as a symbol of the soul, the lamb as lost innocence, and the crows as the temptations or demons of the modern world. For decades, the painting was part of private collections and European museums until it found its permanent home in the National Gallery of Victoria in Melbourne, Australia, where it remains today. It has been restored several times there, the most important being in the 1990s, when layers of aged varnish that had yellowed the surface were removed. After cleaning, the original contrasts between cold white and deep black regained their power. The restorers also discovered small details time had erased: the imprint of snow on the mother's legs, the delicate shadow of the lamb's body, the moist shine of the animal's eye, where Schenk had left a tiny, almost imperceptible reflection, but one that says everything: the spark of a soul that refuses to die. That gaze is the spiritual center of the painting. If the viewer holds it for a few seconds, the title becomes clear. Anguish is not only the pain of loss, it is the awareness of pain. It is the moment when love confronts helplessness, when tenderness turns into tragedy. In that sense, Schenk anticipates what modern cinema and literature would later explore: the silent drama of empathy. No one can look at this work without feeling a knot in their throat, because the scene speaks the oldest language in the world, the language of love that endures even when all is lost. The religious symbolism has also been the subject of analysis. In Christian tradition, the lamb represents divine sacrifice. Here that symbol is reversed. It is no longer the lamb dying to save man, but the mother witnessing helplessly the death of her innocence. It is piety taken to the extreme, not the piety of Mary holding the dead Christ, but that of an earthly creature facing the same mystery of suffering. That is why many critics have described anguish as an animal pietà. Schenk transforms a rural scene into a sacred vision, where the divine and the animal merge. The choice of animals as protagonists was no accident. In an age when man saw himself as the center of the universe, Schenk reminded the world that sensitivity and pain are not the sole property of humanity. In his work, animals think, feel, and love. His art does not idealize nature, it dignifies it. And in that dignity lies an implicit denunciation: the civilized world, with all its science and progress, remains cruel and blind to the purest suffering. Anguish is not merely a painting about a sheep and her lamb, it is a mirror of the human soul when it has lost compassion. Through the years, this painting has become a silent icon against violence and indifference. Contemporary artists have reinterpreted it as a symbol of ecological mourning, of the destruction of the natural world at the hands of man. Others have compared it to the great representations of maternal sorrow in art history, from Michelangelo's Pietà to Millet's The Gleaners. But none achieves the disarming purity that Schenk reaches with so few elements. His work does not seek to glorify death, but to remind us of what can still save us: compassion. To gaze upon anguish is to confront the simplest and deepest truth, that love, even in the face of death, has meaning. In the eternal snow where the mother watches over her dead child, one understands that life is not measured by its length, but by the intensity of its bond. August Schenk painted that instant with the faith of one who believes that even in the cruelest silence, the heart still speaks. His work is not merely an image, it is an echo of the soul, a reminder that as long as we can feel another's pain, there is still hope for humanity. When contemplating anguish in silence, one feels that time dissolves, and that what unfolds before the eyes is not a rural scene, but a fragment of eternity. The painting seems to breathe, to contain cold, sorrow, and memory. The invisible wind that crosses the frozen landscape seems to murmur an ancestral lament, as if nature itself were accompanying the mother's grief. August Schenk did not paint merely animals. He painted the soul of suffering, the universality of mourning, the moment when love becomes resistance. That is why his work, more than a century later, continues to move with the same intensity. The snow covering the ground and horizon is much more than a background. It is the symbol of a world without consolation. In that white expanse, there is no refuge or hope. Everything is dead except for the invisible bond that unites the sheep and her lamb. The cold, like death, seems to have taken hold of everything. Yet within that void, love stands firm. The mother, motionless, resists. That stillness is a heroic act. In her apparent weakness lies an unbreakable strength. The strength of one who, even knowing nothing can be done, refuses to abandon the one she loves. That tension between helplessness and fidelity is what makes anguish a profoundly spiritual work. There is no explicit religion in the canvas, yet its message is holier than that of many biblical paintings. The sheep embodies absolute love, a love that asks for no reward or explanation. There is no miracle, no resurrection, only the silent endurance of loss. And in that endurance, a purer truth is revealed than any dogma. Shared suffering is the highest form of compassion. The use of color is fundamental in creating that atmosphere of contained tragedy. Schenk builds the white of the snow with multiple tones, icy blues, pearly grays, subtle pink reflections where the light breaks. There is no shine, only a dim glow, as if the sun were hidden behind a curtain of sadness. The crows, in contrast, are absolute blacks, ominous figures that break the silence of the landscape. Their presence is not merely realistic, they are the dark witnesses of death, the messengers of the end. But they also represent something more: the indifference of the world, the coldness of life that goes on while love bleeds. The composition is enclosed, yet the infinite horizon amplifies the isolation. There are no mountains, no trees, no signs of civilization. Schenk removes everything that might distract the viewer. Only the mother, the child, and death remain. This visual economy turns the painting into a kind of modern icon, a meditation on cosmic loneliness. The position of the sheep's body, upright yet defeated, conveys perfect emotional tension. The neck bent toward the lamb's body is a line of love and surrender. There is no movement, and yet everything vibrates. The painting lives because it contains the pulse of the soul. The interpretations of anguish over time reflect its symbolic richness. At the end of the 19th century, the public read it as a representation of maternal instinct, of animal fidelity surpassing even human rationality. For the Romantics, it was the embodiment of pure feeling before the indifference of the universe. In the 20th century, critics reinterpreted it as a metaphor for human suffering in times of war, of innocence destroyed by violence. Today, many see it as a work of ecological consciousness, a denunciation of humanity's disconnection from nature. In every age, the painting has found new ways to say the same thing: that pain and love are inseparable, and that compassion is the only thing that keeps us human. Some scholars have seen in the painting a reflection of Schenk himself. Although he was a successful artist, his life was marked by deep melancholy. It is known that he worked in solitude, in direct contact with nature, and that his relationship with animals was almost mystical. He did not paint them from a distance, but from empathy. Anguish seems a personal confession, the portrait of the artist himself before death, a testimony of his faith and sensitivity as a supreme value. In the gaze of the mother sheep there is a sadness so human that many spectators feel she looks at them, that her pain recognizes them. That emotional connection, so immediate, is the proof of Schenk's genius. He turned suffering into a universal language. On a technical level, anguish is also a masterpiece of light. Schenk uses an invisible light source coming from above and slightly from the left, as if the sky itself illuminated the tragedy. That light is not warm but cold, symbolic. It embodies the judgment of fate, but also the purity of what is about to die. The contrast between the brightness of the sheep and the darkness of the crows is not only visual, it is moral. It is the eternal struggle between innocence and corruption, between the love that protects and the nature that devours. The place anguish occupies in the history of art is unique. It does not belong entirely to realism or symbolism, and yet it participates in both. Its fidelity to natural detail, the snow, the fleece, the feathers, coexists with an emotional content that transcends anecdote. That is why the work has been compared to both the landscapes of the Barbizon school and the symbolic visions of artists such as Boclin or Segantini. It is in a way a bridge between two worlds, the art that observes nature and the art that seeks the soul. In modern iconographic analyses, the crows have been a particular focus. In European mythology, the crow is a messenger between life and death, a liminal creature. In the painting, however, there is no magic, only biology, and precisely in that naturalism lies its symbolic power. Death does not need to be supernatural to be terrifying. Schenk's crows are not demons, but they fulfill the same function. They surround, they wait, they watch, they are time, decay, oblivion. The mother, by standing firm before them, becomes a figure of resistance, the love that defies the law of the world. The restoration that allowed its modern exhibition restored to the painting a force that had been lost. The yellowed varnish that covered it had muted the contrast between white and black, erasing the chilling original effect. Once cleaned, the painting regained its spectral tone, its atmosphere of perpetual winter. Experts noted that Schenk had used a technique of successive glazes, applying thin layers of paint to achieve the transparency of snow and the gleam of ice. In the sheep's eye, they discovered a tiny dot of golden light that had previously been invisible, a spark that seems like a soul amid the void. It is the last trace of hope in a world that has lost it. The emotional impact of anguish transcends cultures and ages. Visitors from all over the world stop before it, and without needing to know who Jane Grey, Goya, or Delaroche were, they understand its message. It is a painting that needs no translation. It speaks the language of the heart. Neither technological progress nor the passing of centuries has diminished its power. On the contrary, today it resonates with renewed force. In an era where empathy seems to dissolve among screens and distractions, the image of a mother watching over her dead child reminds us of the deepest root of humanity. In its apparent simplicity, Schenk constructs a complex reflection on life. The snow, pure, cold, immutable, represents time. The crows, inevitable corruption. The sheep, tenderness that endures. And the dead lamb, the loss we all carry within. No symbol is forced. Everything flows naturally. That is why the painting moves without manipulation. It is authentic, honest, universal. Today, in the museums where it is exhibited, curators often place the work in quiet rooms, knowing that viewers need time. It is not a painting to be glanced at. It demands contemplation, respect. In front of it, the noise of the world disappears, and only the essential question remains: what do we do with pain? Schenk offers no answers, but his painting teaches that compassion is the only possible redemption. Thus, anguish becomes much more than a work of art. It is a prayer for what is lost, a reminder of empathy as a sacred force. In the immense white of the landscape where death seems absolute, the figure of the mother remains standing, bent but alive, guarding the child who no longer breathes. That image contains all of human history: loss, love, mourning, and the silent faith that even in the cruelest winter, the heart can still love.